welcome to Live at 11. Yet again, I'm late. I'm sorry. I got caught up with some stuff. So today I thought maybe you'd like to see me paint. I'm working on this new piece. I think I showed you the other week about just putting the base colours down. Well, as you can see, I've mapped out a bit of a story going on here. Let me see if I can push this back a little bit more, see if that helps. There we go. So I haven't got a guest this week. Hopefully in a couple of weeks time I'll have a new guest for conversations with. They're over the pond, so to speak, so we need to realign our times and everything, so it may be a pre-recorded, but fingers crossed it won't be, and they'll be able to come on live. So with this piece, what I've done is I've divided my canvas into a grid. So I've got divided into 3 horizontally and 3 vertically, and then I've started putting down some shapes and ideas for this piece. So I thought I would just pop some colour on, and as I go I can explain what I'm doing. But basically what I'm going to be doing today is building up the layers, so it's not necessarily going towards the finished piece as yet, but I just wanted to show you how I do it. I've seen lots of other artists have gone on and you watch them paint, and sometimes I find it's nice. Well, I enjoy watching other artists paint, and when they turn to the camera and they say, well, I've done this because of X, Y and Z, hopefully I'll be able to do that for you as well. So let me go and get some paint then. I have my brush at the ready. This is my most favourite brush, and I love it, so I just keep this one. I use this quite a lot. So what I've got at the moment, I've got some lovely fuchsia pink and some neon pink and some neon yellow, and I'm just going to add some white just to block out some areas for where I'm going to put on colour later. So this was just basically, the canvas was already gessoed, and then I put another layer of gesso on it, and then I put my neon pink on it, and then the neon yellow. So now I'm going to block out some areas. So even though I've got the drawings on there, what I do, I don't know if it might be helpful for you guys to do it as well, is what I do is I take photographs at every stage. So even though I'm blocking out areas, I've got the photograph of where everything was underneath, so I know where I'm going back to lift up those areas that I've marked out. So let me get my white paint and I'll be back with you. I would have some music going. Normally I paint with music, but I don't want to get into trouble by having someone else's music on and not having their permission. So I've got just some titanium white on my brush, and you'll probably just see my arm. I can't actually get in there to do anything, but what I'm doing is I'm blocking out areas, nice little shapes here, because this is all going to tell a better picture, a story later on. So I just do little dabs, turn my brush over because the paint gets loaded both sides, and this is my mark making that I'm doing, just tiny little dabs. Well, tiny as in this size brush. Did you know that the bigger the brush you use, you can actually make some really quite small marks? And one time my tutor gave us all a huge brush. Let me get my brush. She gave us a brush like this, and it's 3 inch, and we had to try and make the smallest of marks with it on our canvas, and it was such a brilliant exercise to do, because actually you can get quite tiny marks with a big brush. So don't ever think that you need little brushes to make little marks, because a nice big brush is fabulous and makes beautiful mark making. Anyway, back to blocking out my shape. I'm doing different directions with my paint, because when I come to sand it down, I want to have different textures on my painting. And so if I go in different directions, it loads the paint in different areas, and some areas are quite thin and some are quite thick. But yeah, so I'm just gonna fill in this area here, because this is one of my focal points. And the reason I've made this one of my focal points is because not only is it crossing through the horizontal line going across the bottom, but we're also going through the vertical lines, and so where it crosses, the vertical line crosses a horizontal line, that gives you a good focal point to your piece. So that piece here, that's going to be my focal point, so then it'll spread out. This piece corner over here, it just misses that crossover, but then that's fine. I don't mind that, because it's just going to make a really interesting piece. So carry on doing that. So I've had quite a busy week already, even though we're only on Wednesday. I've been making reels to load up on my Instagram page and the Blooms page, because I'm Blooms Artist of the Month. So I've been making some reels, because at the moment I'm showing my work that I created for my journal in 2020. And so the last piece I put on, the last piece I put on was about it's called 809, and it was about the number of deaths. I mean, it's not a happy topic, but it's about the number of deaths that happened between October 2019 and October 2020. At that time, in the news, why that was written in my journal was because we were still reeling from the shock of the murder of George Floyd. Let me just get some more paint. And there was lots of news coverage about deaths in custody or at time of arrest in the USA. And so I thought, you know, I need to find out a bit more about this. What's happening that is causing us, you know, to not actually be responding to what's being said unless it makes the news. And you know, all those people that were there at the time of George Floyd's arrest, they were like the photojournalists, weren't they, with their cameras at the ready, so we could actually see what was happening. And as distressing as that actually was, it was important that we saw this, because, you know, whatever crime has been committed, whatever the offence, I don't know. I mean, I find it difficult to cope with the thought of someone's life being taken. Anyway, so that piece, what I wanted to do is I wanted to individualise it and make it more about the people that had died, but also about everyone that had been affected. So on this piece, I'm just coming round now just to tighten up my edge, because when I come to put another layer on of a different colour, when I sand it down, I want to be able to see that edge come through, rather it just gets sanded off. Okay, so going back to 809, the piece, I hand drew 809 hearts, hand cut 809 hearts, and then hand painted 809 hearts. Every heart is different. Same colours were used, but every heart is different. I could have painted a sheet of paper in one go, and I could have gone and got a paper cutter and cut out the hearts in one go, you know, got them all printed or cut out. But then that wouldn't have been why I was doing the story. The story was to show individuals, and each heart represented a life taken. Each heart represented a family around that person. Each heart represented a community around that person. Each heart represented whoever was connected to that death, whether it be the police officers, whether it be the mortuary technicians, whether it be you know, the what do they call it, well, whoever, the bystanders who saw it, the people reading it in the news. I mean, how many of you read the news of George Floyd, and when you were reading it you were thinking, oh my God? Well, that obviously had an effect on you. So every heart that I hand drew, hand cut, hand painted represents, I suppose, the ripple effect that that event had on those around them at that time. And some of those people, like you and I, weren't known to them. I didn't know any of those police officers. I didn't know George Floyd. I didn't know his family. I didn't know the whole situation when it was unravelling in front of us. But it did have that effect. So that's the piece that I've got a reel at the moment on my Instagram and on the Blooms Instagram page. And today I'll be putting up a new piece from my journal. So what happened was with this journal is, we all know what was happening in 2020, you know, when COVID struck and the whole world was in lockdown. But I started a journal and I wrote in it every day, and then in 2021 I thought, right, now I need to get this writing into art form. So I chose, from every month I chose one story that I'd written in my journal, and I recreated that story into a piece of art. So that is what my journal, my series of work on my journal is about. It's actually my private writings, my personal writings from my journal of 2020. Some pieces are quite uplifting, some pieces can be quite dark. You know, I did do a piece about George Floyd. I may show that at the end of the week, before I go on to next week. I did pieces about COVID, about how we were all confused about, well, what the British government was saying. You know, here it was go to work, don't go to work, stay in, don't stay in. I mean, it was such confusion at the beginning. Were we isolating, were we not isolating? Who can you isolate with, who can you not isolate with, etc. So I did a piece, and that piece I really liked. It is so bright and so vibrant because it's all different shades of oranges and yellows. And we're all, because we were told we had to be in bubbles, so we're all in our little family bubbles. And some are overlapping, some are touching, some aren't. And I think that piece, I just think that's really, I love it. I love the vibrancy of it. But you can put your story to it. So I do write a story with all my pieces. I write the story before I actually start painting. I'm going to move over here now. So you see this piece here, it's got that lovely curve. I'm going to replicate that curve over here, but it's going to be a lot smaller, because if you keep everything the same size, it starts to make your piece of work boring, uninteresting. There's nothing wrong with repetition. Repetition is good. It's part of abstract. But you also want to make sure that your work is holding the attention of your viewer. Let me just turn that way. So you can see I've got that lovely, nice curve there, but they're two different sizes. So that creates interest, that creates a conversation in the piece. And then this is like in a third of a section of the grid. So that's an okay place to be. Okay, I'm now going to move across to the other side, and I'm going to put another curve in, but this is more of a snaky, and it's going to be quite thin compared to the solid mass of that, and that's quite solid. Even though it's small, it's quite solid. So if I just do it like that, that's it. I'm going to change my brush. There we go. And come again. That's it. If you stand back from your painting and you put your arm out at arm's length, you get a much better flow, and it's a lot looser than if you're up close and tight. And also holding your brush at the end, don't hold it like a pen like that, because it makes your work too tight. And also, what's the point of having a long brush if you're going to hold it tight? Hold it at the end and you've got a lot more flow with your work. So that's what I'm doing here. And like I said before, these are just blocking out areas, which I'm going to come back to. That's it. Love that. So we've now got a bit of a better conversation going on with this piece. Yeah? So we've got this big loud, imagine someone loud shouting, someone trying to get their point across, but they're a bit tentative with it. And then this person over here absolutely doesn't care. Just listening, doing their own thing. That's what I like. Listen and do your own thing. Hey Joe, nice to have you on. I'm just blocking out some colours. Let me show you on this piece. Just blocking out some colours. This is a new piece I've started. And I've also been talking about being on the Blooms as Artist of the Month. And this week I've been picking work out from a series of work from my journal of 2020. So I was just talking about 809 and the reel that I made on I posted on Instagram on my page and on the Blooms Instagram page yesterday. So like I say, you know, hold your brush right at the end and you get more movement, more flow, and it makes the painting more interesting because you're creating a conversation rather than everything being really tight. Oh, I'm glad you like the colours, Joe. Right, what's the time? I need to keep a check. Okay, just a few more minutes and then I'll let you all get on with your day, and then I'll get on with this. I normally have music playing in the background. It's very difficult painting without music, because normally I choose a piece of music that goes alongside the piece of art that I'm working on. So when I'm doing my preparation for my piece, I have the title. I have an idea of what I want to paint and what I want to talk about, because I find that all my paintings like conversation starters. So I have come up with a title, and then I write my essay, and in that, mixed in that essay will be, if it's relevant, books I've read or pieces of music I listen to. And then in my studio I will listen to that music over and over again if it's related to that piece, so I can really get into the flow of it. So yeah, people work in different ways when they're doing things. Jan says, are you working on a little gift for me to bring home? I'd love a Sammy original in my home. Oh my goodness. Well, I'll have to get some canvas so you can roll it up and then you can get it framed at home. So maybe I can do that for you if you'd like me to. Right, so I think actually I'm going to say goodbye now and crack on with this piece. Thank you for joining me. I will be live at 1 on Friday on the Instagram page where I'm the Blooms Artist of the Month. So I'll be doing a short live there on Friday at 1. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks I will have another conversation with, like I said, that I've got a couple of guests from America. And I have another guest coming from Australia, so you'll like that one, Joe. Though you may be here by the time I get that guest on, as they're getting quite hard to pin down, but we'll get there in the end. So have a good week. Alex, hi Alex, glad you've joined me. You should be studying, you've got your last exam tomorrow. Alex is my nephew and he's doing his A-levels, so good luck. Tomorrow, is it? Yeah, tomorrow I'm taking you. Yeah, so good luck, or picking you up. So get your last minute revision done, Alex. All right, I'll see everyone later. I'm going to carry on with this, crank up the music, and I'll let you know how this gets on. All right, bye bye.